In the last video I made about Hazbin Hotel, I talked about how Alastor may have made a deal with Charlie's mother Lilith, and that this was his main reason for being at the hotel. But in the 2 episodes that just dropped, we got a lot more regarding Alastor and his backstory. So as a result, that theory may have to be changed up just a little. And of course, spoiler warning if you haven't watched the show for yourself yet. So before we get into this one, let's correct some stuff about the last theory. So last time I mentioned the Alastor falling into holy arms thing, and a lot of you were quick to point out that what was actually said was fallen to holy arms, which means that the other overlords thought that when Alastor had left for 7 years, that he had actually been killed by an angelic weapon, and that was why he was gone. This doesn't really mess with the theory all that much, but it at least confirms for us that the other overlords had no idea where Alastor had actually disappeared to, just assuming that he got killed. Okay, the last thing I want to correct is the thing I said about Valentino's goons attacking the hotel. I originally had thought that Charlie would kill or hurt Valentino for how he treats Angel and it would cause his goons to attack the hotel. But it turns out that this was just to introduce a new character, Mimsy, who only really shows up to tell us more about Alastor and then she gets told to leave. Again, doesn't really prove that Charlie will or won't snap, but what it does mean is that Valentino gets to live and make us all angry a little bit longer. Alright, now with that all out of the way, let's get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode. In episode 5, we actually get a lot of lore drops. So in the last video, we talked about how Alastor and Lilith were both gone for 7 years, and we speculated that during that time, they potentially had struck a deal for Alastor to watch over Charlie and make sure she never succeeds in her plan, waiting for the day the exterminations finally make her snap. We concluded this to maybe be the reason Alastor is at the hotel in the first place. But after the release of episode 5, I think I have a new theory for why he's here. About halfway into the episode, Husk pulls Alastor aside to talk. And it's in this moment that we learn that Alastor is supposedly on a leash, exactly like Husk and Angel. Which not only confirms our theory that Alastor and Lilith made a deal, but also it seemingly solves something that's been a mystery since day 1. See, we've never been able to figure out just how Alastor is so powerful. I mean, he's a mortal soul. He hasn't been around nearly as long as some of these guys he's taking down on a daily basis. As Mimsy says, he was taking down heavy hitters, not just low-tier overlords. Sure, it may be a little valid to look at his voodoo symbols when he uses his powers and just assume that he studied a lot of voodoo crap when he was alive, and now his soul is just naturally stronger. But we know from Husk's flashbacks that Alastor dabbled in gambling for souls. So it's really not that far-fetched to believe that Alastor would just take down some big bads in hell and then just get cocky. And as a result of pure hubris, thinking he just couldn't be beaten, he ended up gambling with the wrong person, that being Lilith, which ended up costing him his soul. This is perfect motivation for him to be at the hotel, helping her daughter, and in return, he gets to keep his status, his power that he flaunts whenever possible, and most important of all, his beloved radio show that he talks about all the time. It's clear that all Alastor really wants is to torture those around him, and to be the one that people fear. That's also why he's so against Lucifer helping Charlie's cause the entire time, trying to convince her that he's got it all under control, even though he really hasn't done anything substantial, because he doesn't actually want it to succeed. He doesn't want anyone being redeemed, because what use is being the strongest, most feared demon in hell when there's no one in hell to torment? Now that that's covered, time to talk about heaven. Episode 6 doesn't really give us an in-depth look at heaven, but we do get a peek at a few angels. But first, let's get this bombshell out of the way real quick. Turns out Vaggie is actually a fallen angel. Yeah, I was surprised too. And we see the exact thing that happened to actually get her there. We see her show mercy on a smaller looking demon, and then right after that getting her left eye cut out, her wings ripped off, and her halo stolen, rendering her just as defenseless as the other sinners she was just exterminating. It's here that she meets Charlie in her pilot uniform, further confirming that the pilot is 100% canon, and it's also here that the relationship presumably starts. Charlie was unaware of the fact Vaggie was an angel until now, so that could end up being a potential reason for Charlie snapping in the future. Anyway, I digress. During Heaven Court, we learn that none of the members actually know the unspoken requirements that you need to meet in order to get into heaven. And this is actually a much bigger problem than we realize. See, most of Heaven's higher-ups were born or created in heaven. They've never had to deal with the stresses of being alive on Earth that we have to deal with. We, much like the humans in the show, have no idea what comes after this life. We don't know if heaven's real, and even if it is, we have no clue what we need to do in order to get there. And it's one of the questions that plagues us every single day until we all inevitably find out for ourselves. Them, on the other hand, they were created up there. They got a free pass from the beginning, so it makes sense that they wouldn't know these things. The same is the case for Adam. Even though he was technically the first human soul in heaven, he was also pretty much spawned into this world with a golden ticket in his hand. He was the first, and if there is any sort of realism in this universe about how long humans live, there's no way he would have been alive when the larger population of Earth started to form. He very likely only had a small handful of experiences on Earth before his divine ordination, and before he became commander of the Exorcists. He's been in heaven ever since, and because Adam's been shown to not really care about anyone else but himself, I wouldn't take him for the kind of guy to regularly keep tabs on Earth to see what's going on for fun. So it makes perfect sense that Adam would have no idea how to get into heaven either. So nobody knows how to get into heaven apparently, and it seems they're saving that for some sort of big reveal in the finale. As far as how the episode ends, the court rules that there's no definitive evidence that a soul in hell can be redeemed, and Adam moves the extermination up once again, as we theorized would happen in the last video. Then a portal opens up and Charlie and Vaggie both get pulled in. Now from the trailers we know that Charlie eventually gets over being told that Vaggie is an angel, and the last 2 episodes are spent preparing for the upcoming extermination. I bet in the next episode we'll find out more about Lilith and Aleister. Maybe we'll actually get to hear her talk. But the only thing left to do now is wait for the last 2 episodes to come out. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to subscribe and hit the bell if you want more. Alright guys, that's it from me. I love every single one of you with all my heart. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.